The next section of this presentation is what we call the view from the state. We have two partners in the state that we work with a great deal, obviously CDE, California Department of Education, and OPSC, the Office of Public School Construction. We work closely with them, and we wanted you to get a glimpse of where they are. They're going to spend the afternoon working with those folks that have never done this before in a separate section, almost on a one-to-one basis, to be able to help those folks through what some would view as a real complicated process from the outside. But I think once we get into it, it's much simpler. So I'd like to introduce to you our team. First, Juan Morales, who's been was with OPSC, was also with Finance, the California Department of Finance, and now your title, I just call you the boss, but you're really not the boss. I think Tom Torlingson would be upset if I said that.
Yes, he's the boss.
He's the boss. And I'm going to ask Juan to talk a little bit about OPSC and where you are, where they are, and where you want to work, where they're going.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, good. Once again, my name is Juan Morales. I'm the title actually is Director of School Facilities and Transportation Services Division. It's a long one at the Department of Education. I want to take this opportunity to introduce a couple of my team members that I see back here. Back there we have Fred Yeager, who is our Assistant Director. I see Leslie Tager, who's one of our field representatives. And I thought I seen Diane Waters, who is our Senior Architect. Do we have anybody else here, guys? No, this is part of our team here in Sacramento. Once again, we're under the leadership of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlingson. Our department's mission, I'll just summarize it very briefly, is that we want to provide a world-class education for all students from an early education all the way through adulthood. Like Chet mentioned, today I'm going to give you a very brief overview of who we are, what we do, and some key initiatives. But to start off, I wanted to talk a little bit about our history of our division. Many of you may not know, but we've been around for a very long time. In fact, our division was created back in 1927. Back then, we were called a Division of Schoolhouse Planning. And even back then, the law required us to establish standards for school buildings. And in some areas, we actually reviewed plans and specs in areas that didn't have cities actually building codes. This is very interesting. A couple of years after we were established, we published this map of California. And it's very hard to read, but it represents a dot for each plan that we've reviewed during fiscal year 29-30. I think in Sacramento County we had, 3 plans that we reviewed, but this is a summary of all the plans that we reviewed statewide. I keep telling folks that to me this is the world's first attempt at a GIS map. Doesn't it look like it, right? I know it's kind of hard to see from over here, but I think it's an early version of it. So fast forward to today, and the law still requires us to develop standards for the design of school buildings and school site selection. We have these standards included in what we call Title V regulations that I'll talk about briefly in a little bit later. But our main focus is making sure that school sites and plans are designed to be educationally appropriate and that they promote safety. We are also charged with the responsibility when a district is reviewing school sites to provide them a list of sites in order of merit that once again look at education, at safety, at reduction in traffic hazards, and in conformance with the general plan. Now, for school districts that are planning to seek state funding, the law requires you to receive our approval for school sites and plans. What we do is review the plans and sites to make sure, once again, that they're in conformance with our Title V regulations. I'm actually kind of curious. How many of you have submitted plans through our office? Raise a hand. Okay, some of you. So once again, if a district is pursuing state funding, it's required. But if not, the law still requires you to design schools and to select school sites that are in conformance with our Title V standards. You don't have to submit them to our office for review, but you still have to design them in conformance with our Title V regulations. Of course, there's a lot of other requirements that you have to meet, such as CEQA, but once again, even if you don't submit them to our office, because you're not going to pursue state funding, you still have to design them in accordance with Title V regulations. wanted to provide you just a very brief overview of some of the work that we did in 2017. This focuses on the plans that we reviewed, and this is just final plans. This does not include the preliminary plans that we reviewed, which I want to take this opportunity to once again remind you to submit your preliminary plans to us. Please get us involved early. You'll save time and potentially money later on. So, as you can see, the bulk of the projects that we reviewed in 2017 in terms of plans were in modernization. We also reviewed 20 school sites. The 20 school sites, interestingly, represents a little less than 400 acres. If you just look at the plans that we reviewed, both new construction and modernization, they included about 3,500 classrooms, impacting a little less than 90,000 students. I want to now talk a little bit about some of the key initiatives that we have going on right now. The first is Entitled V standards, and I've been talking about that a little bit. They have not, these are regulations, they have not been updated since 2000. Now, a lot has changed since 2000, right? We have a lot of new things like next generation science standards, we have STEM, we have STEAM, we have Common Core, there's a big focus on project-based learning, and we haven't updated our regulations. So what we did is we started having listening sessions last year where we went out to different areas of the state and had folks provide input on some things that we should consider in potentially amending the regulations. This is both for new sites, modernization, and plans. What we found out when we started doing our internal review is that we had a vast differences of opinion internally in terms of what our role is. We were also impacted by other factors during this time. So we decided to shift, to take a pause on Title V standards and work on completing a strategic plan. We are in the process of finalizing the strategic plan that's going to help us and guide us with some of our Title V regulations. Once we get that up and running, we will continue our review and hopefully amend our regulations. Another key initiative that we have is a small school district assistance initiative that the state superintendent launched in January 2017. This is basically to help the small school districts. Small school districts for us are districts that have 2,500 students or less. And what we did is we started off by contacting all of the small school districts that have passed local bonds in 2016. We know that that is typically a prerequisite to seek state funding. You have to have your local match, right? So we wanted to contact those that did pass a bond to see where they're at in the process. There were about 44 small school districts that we contacted, and once again, this was just to make sure that now that you have your local match, do you know what steps you need to take to continue your journey to hopefully pursue state funding and meet your facility needs. The next phase is when we partnered with OPSC and DSA, and we did targeted outreach to the small school districts. We took a look at the map of California, we took a look at all the counties, and we picked the counties that had the highest concentration of small school districts, and we did outreach workshops in those counties. We have done several, we're going to continue to do some more, and then the last phase is where we're going to partner once again with OPSC and DSA to try and find ways that we can collaborate to develop strategies that's going to help school districts in planning, construction, and funding. This is also part of a requirement of AB 203 that was chaptered into last year, and we're in the process of updating this as well. The next key initiative is in the area of sustainability. Now for us, this is a whole child sustainability, whole school sustainability. We administer the California Green Ribbon Schools program that recognizes schools that excel in 3 areas. The first is in projects that reduce environmental impact and cost. Second is that they promote health and wellness of students. And the third is that they include environmental literacy programs in their schools. These are the 3 pillars as they're called. We recognize schools, they apply to our office, we review their applications. If they score 55% or higher, they receive either gold, silver, or bronze recognition. We also nominate the top 5 scorers to receive federal recognition by the U.S. Department of Education. Very great program. We encourage all of you to look into it. A lot of schools are already doing some of these things to be recognized, so it's good to look into it and maybe receive state recognition or federal recognition. Now, the next initiative that we need to talk about is in the area of natural disasters. Make no mistake, folks, we are in a new era of natural disasters and emergency situations for California schools. So we have a basic question for you. Are you ready? Are you ready both professionally and personally to, unfortunately, have to evacuate your home and your family? This is a picture of Coffey Park in Santa Rosa. Hundreds of homes were destroyed during the October wildfires. For you district folks, are you ready to have some of your schools look like this? This is a Hidden Valley Satellite Campus. This particular school was completely burned down during the October wildfires. I was there. I joined the state superintendent the week that the fire started, and we went there and saw these schools, and I gotta tell you, it is completely devastating to see them. This is another picture. This is Roseland Collegiate Prep, also in Santa Rosa. This school had a couple of the buildings that were destroyed, not the entire campus, but you can see some of the, actually in the bottom left, you can see some of the desks that remain and some of the lockers back there. Our role when it comes to natural disasters is we go to the California Office of Emergency Services State Operations Center, which is located here in Rancho Cordova, and we help provide information on the status of schools and school closures. We advocate for schools when they're discussing a lot of things in terms of it could be as debris removal. You know, we want to make sure that schools are prioritized. One of the things that we also did is we actually created a link on our website where we consolidated a lot of information regarding natural disasters. We have some that are specific to the wildfires, but we also have information from other departments, other divisions within our department, and other state agencies as well as federal agencies. You know, we asked earlier whether you were ready or not. For those of you that said yes, good for you. You'll be in a much better situation. For those of you that are unsure or said no, now is the time to start planning and preparing. It will help you be in a better situation during a natural disaster. This is some of our contact information for both me and Fred, and again, Fred is here as well. But that concludes our high-level overview. We will get more into the weeds in our afternoon session. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. I'd now like to take an opportunity to introduce Barbara I'm going to do it again. Kent-Meinert. She is the assistant, give me the title exactly.
Deputy Executive Officer.
Too many titles. When I came onto DSA, they handed me 16 pages of acronyms. So I just said, I'm not going to learn any of those at all. And I also forget titles, so I apologize. But she's been with OPSC for 15 years. She's an expert in the whole process and brings a great deal of information to all of us. Thank you, Barbara, for joining.
Of course. Good morning. Very happy to be here. So again, just a little high-level overview of who we are, and then this afternoon we'd love to see some of you to kind of go more into the process of what we're doing. But a little history, we haven't been around quite as long as DSA and CDE, but we have been here since the 40s, and we've had a number of name changes and changes in where we're placed in state government throughout the years. But since 1995, we have been known as the Office of Public School Construction, and we are under the Department of General Services. What do we do? What is our mission statement? Well, the way we see this is that we are enriching the lives of the school children as stewards of the taxpayers' commitment to education. So we're handling the bond money. So we want to help the kids by taking good care of the bond dollars that the voters have approved. We have a couple roles. So we are under the Department of General Services, and we serve on behalf of the Director of General Services and administer the school facility program, which is where you're going to come after you've talked to DSA and CDE if you want to access the state funding. And in this role, we serve as staff to the State Allocation Board. The State Allocation Board is the body that actually makes the official awards for that bond funding. Up here we have a listing of our state allocation board members. The board is a 10-member body, and it spans the legislature and different branches of government. So we've got the chair, Department of Finance, and then we have 6 legislative members. Our director sits on the board, as well as the state superintendent. Juan actually sits for us. A governor's appointee, and then our legislative members as well. And the board meets just about monthly, although there are a few months where we don't have board meetings. So it's probably about 8 to 10 times a year to take care of apportioning the funds and any other business under the school facility program. Clients. Who do we see as our clients? Well, you guys. School districts, county offices of education, charter schools, anyone basically that is trying to access state funding through the school facility program, we want to partner. So we see this as a partnership process where we would like to be helping applicants and districts in the beginning, in the middle, at the end of your project. So you don't have to wait until you submit that official funding application to come talk to us. We'd love to be meeting with you in the early stages as you're working to plan and design your projects so that we can help you figure out what the funding might look like at the end of the road. What programs do we have available? Well, throughout the history of the school facility program, there have been a variety of different ways that you can access funding for different types of facility projects. What we have right now is largely funded by Proposition 51, which was the bond that passed in November of 2016. And under that bond, certain programs were replenished with bond authority, the primary ones being the new construction and modernization programs, the facility hardship program, which is our health and safety program. So if you have facilities that are posing a health and safety risk to your students and staff, that's the program you're looking at there. Financial hardship is a subset of the programs where if a school district does not have the ability to make a local match for the program, the state can potentially provide some assistance there as well. We also have $500 million available for the Career Technical Education Facilities Program. That program is active right now. We just closed up a round, and it's moved from the Department of Education over to our shop for processing. There will be more rounds of that in the future. And then the Charter School Facilities Program, and with our January and February State Allocation Board meeting, we did just allocate all of the bond authority for that program. There was $500 million available, and we were very oversubscribed on that program, so it was very popular. But those preliminary apportionments have gone out to the charter schools. What have we been doing? Well, since 1998, you can see here the funding accomplishments by general region of the state of California. But there's been $34.24 billion that's gone out to school districts through the various programs and through the bonds that have passed since 1998. Totals, we've done over 51,000 new classrooms, 135,000 classrooms have been touched by modernization dollars. So almost 200,000 classrooms have been touched by this program so far. Current bond authority, this is as of January 24th. We did just have a board meeting a few days ago, so it's been updated just a little bit, but the general shape is still there. The bulk of our funding is available in the new construction and modernization programs, about $2.7 billion each in those programs. We are working through a backlog of projects that have been submitted, but there is still plenty of bond authority for folks to apply for at this time. We are very excited about this next topic, OPSC Online. So we are largely a paper-based office right now. If you've worked with us in the past, you know that you've submitted a paper application, a wet signature. You've given us, in years past, a giant roll of plans for your project. We'd like to move, I don't know that it's to the future, we'd at least like to catch up to current time on that, and we are moving towards an online submittal process. So what we want to do is make it so that eventually you'll be able to submit everything online, and we won't be needing wet signatures, we won't be needing hard copies. We're going to be approaching this in small steps, and we've already started with the Career Technical Education Facilities Program. And we did have an opportunity for school districts applying to that program in this last round to submit their application online. We are still taking wet signatures after the fact. We're working to remove that step, but again, this is new. So in that, we had about a third of the applications that were submitted to the program come in online, so that was really exciting. And what we are planning to do, or what we're doing right now, is reaching out to those applicants to kind of see how this process worked and see what you liked, what you didn't like, what we can improve on. And we're planning to use this as the model for our other programs. So if you were a district or an applicant that submitted during that round, we'd love to hear your feedback, because that's how we're going to make this system better and make it more useful for you. And eventually this will be the way that we go, so very exciting. And then we've got our points of contact up here. Feel free to reach out to any of these folks if you have a application-related question. Brian LePasque is who you're going to want to speak with. Another one to point out is the facility hardship for those health and safety applications. Jennifer Mistretti is our supervisor for that program. Got a great knowledge base there. And then if you have questions about whether or not you can make your match, or if the state can help you with that, then our financial hardship team is the way to go, and that's John Leininger. And he will also be available with me this afternoon to go over the details of the financial hardship program. With that, we just want to thank you for the opportunity to introduce you to our program today, and hopefully we'll see some of you this afternoon. Thank you, Chad.
Let's see if there are any questions. We're moving fairly well in terms of the schedule, so let me just see if there's any big picture questions, not questions that go into the weeds. We can do that this afternoon. Anybody have any issues that you'd like to, or not issues, but questions that you have for either Juan or Barbara? Well, thank you very much.